Hey all, Tony Bing here. Hello and welcome to my Brutal Assault in-game build for Wolverine for Marvel Heroes Omega for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Now with this build guide video I will showcase the skills and talents you need to use for the build. I'll show off the synergies, we'll talk about the infinity points and where you would place the first 100 points. I will then run over a rough gearing priority, and at the end we have an operation with a run through so we can show off how the rotation works and how the actual build all fits together as well. Now if you want to jump to any particular section, check out the description, there are timestamps there. Otherwise we'll start off by looking at the skills. For the skills we have quite a varied selection here. We've got some bleeds, we've got some instant brutes, we've got some AoE and we've got some utility as well. Now the main filler we're using, and we use this to regenerate our fury, is Bloody Claws. Now we're using the bleed version of it. That is quite important and you'll see why once we actually get to the gearing section, but it is important you use a bleed, and I will mention the bleed on it is for a whopping 12 seconds, which really is great. Now the move that gets us in the enemy's face is Crimson Leap, and this also leaves another bleed on them. This is classed as a grievous wound and that's 6 second duration it has on it. We then have Bloody Sweep, so this is a dual use move. It can provide vulnerability to bosses, but you can also spam it to take out trash as well, and that's something that Wolverine can struggle a bit with, so that's why I keep it easily accessible here. Now the next set of skills we look at on the L2, after I've applied the vulnerability and my bleeds, I would use a signature 3 times Furious Assault, and what that does is it means the next skill we use is Run Through, and this has a 100% chance to brutally strike, so it hits for a huge amount. And then following on from that we have Impale, and that skill also has a 100% chance to brutal strike built into it there, so we've got 2 brutes back to back. Now we'll start to run through the rotation again. You apply your bleeds, your vulnerabilities, you will cast this once more. This time it won't have the buff from the signature, so it won't automatically brute. When you cast this it will of course brute. By the time you run through the rotation for a third time, your signature will be back up and you can get those 2 brutes back to back again. Now the final skill we actually look at here is Feral Roar. I have this on L2X. The reason for that, or cross I think it is rather than hex even, but the reason for that is I'll be holding down the cross button to attack the enemy. When I press L2 this will automatically cast, so I'm not really having to press anything, and it's intermittently weakening, terrifying the enemy and helping keep my fury up as well, so it does work really great in that regard. But next up what we'll do is have a look at the talents. For the talents we have 2 slight variations you can use here if you want to go more for the damage build or if you want to go more for the tanky one, and that will be in lines 1 and 5. Now in this first line then, I'm currently using Hardened Outlook, so that transforms Swift Claws into Bloody Claws and it provides it with the bleed, and again you'll see why once we get to the gear section. If you want to go for a more tanky Wolverine, I would use Combat Rage. This will generate 50 fury when you're in combat. Now you probably think, why does that make you tanky? You'll find out once we get to the end of the talents. Now the next talent anyway is Punishing Strike. So with this, Impale gains the following effects. It gains 50% brutal strike damage, and the actual fury cost reduction on it is 50%, because normally it would use all your fury, but we don't want that. With this it's only using 50% off it. We then have Let's Make This Quick, so it's a passive. You do an extra 15% damage and you do take 10% damage more, but I do find it's worthwhile for the extra damage you can do there. We then have Exploit Weakness, so Run Through, which is a great skill, we can get the auto brute on. This will apply vulnerability, increasing damage taken by fury spending powers by 20% for 6 seconds. Now the final talent, this is one you can switch around, it's Savage Instincts. So Wet Work automatically triggers when you hit a boss or mini boss and lasts for 10 seconds, and that is a great steroid skill, and it's one we don't have space on our bar for, so that's why I'm using this. But if you want to go for the more tanky build, and this ties in with the talent way back here, I'll jump back just to refresh you on it, the Fury Generation. If you use this with Can't Keep Me Down, so when your health has been depleted, your remaining fury will absorb fatal damage, preventing death, and that's why that first talent is so good, because if you get hit, your health is low, your fury's low, you can simply run around in combat and your fury will start to go back up again, and it means the enemy can't actually down you, so it works really nice. But next up what we'll do is have a look at the synergies. As always, we start off with the primary attributes, and they are durability and fighting, so that's provided by Luke Cage, Elektra and also War Machine. The more generic synergies that work great are Blade, Hawkeye, Hulk, She-Hulk and Squirrel Girl, and finally the ones that work great on Wolverine due to a melee claw character is Nightcrawler and also Wolverine as well. But next up we'll look at the Infinity Point allocation, and this is where you would place the first 100 points. For the Infinity Points, I would actually be placing my first 100 points into the Space Gem and Gravity Well, because this gives us an additional 50% base health, which really does help out on them. And you also have the Masteries, which is your medkit, causes you to take 10% less damage for 5 seconds, and you have an overall decrease in damage reduction by 1% as well there. If you want, instead you can go for the Soul Gem, and you could go for the Health and Hit, and that would give you the different Soul Masteries with the medkit. So it's really just personal preference, and I would recommend playing around with both and find out what one you feel works best with you. But next up what we'll do is have a look at the general gearing priority. As always with this gearing section, what I'll do is just give some general advice on how you want to actually gear for this build, and that means in future when new gear comes out you can use the tips here to help you choose if you want to move your gear around. Now for the legendary, his tags are a bit strange. I say they're a bit strange, they're actually pretty simple. They're melee and claw, but we don't really have any legendaries that perfectly fit them, and for that reason I like to use the M-Cram. Nice and simple. So you get some fury, which makes it easier to make sure you've got enough fury to cast all your skills. You've got 3000 health, which works great on them. You've got 600 flat damage rating, and then you have 1500 critical hit rating to all your skills as well, and you've got the nice rank 5 proc as well there. For the medallion, there's two choices really, but I'm going for this one because it's a bit more fun. You have, of course, as a melee character, got the first option of Dr. Octopus medallion. You've also got the Sabertooth medallion, so when you hit with a claw power, you cause your target to bleed, and this actually stacks all the way up to 10 times, and when you reach 10 stacks, you gain 51 health on hit for 5 seconds there. If we look at the relic, I don't actually have one equipped. Now the reason for that is the obvious choice would be to go for the melee relic. However, it can be a bit squishy, so you may want to go for the defense or dodge relic. It's really down to your own personal preference again. Now artifact wise, regardless what build you run on Wolverine, this is fantastic. It's Sabertooth's furry main, so you get health regen, defense, damage rating to claw powers, and also when you use a bleeding power you gain critical hit rating for 30 seconds there. Now if we look at this particular item, the Book of Demonicus, this is the reason we were using the filler that has the bleed on it, Bloody Claws. So it has +3 to all attributes, which is great, but when you hit with a basic power you gain 30 damage rating. Now you only gain it for 3 seconds, so the whole thing with the Book of Demonicus is you can build up a whopping amount of damage. It's in the region of about 1700 I believe with the attributes and the full buff, but what happens after 3 seconds of engaging an enemy, you lose a large portion of that damage. But because you have a bleed on Wolverine's basic, and it has, if I can remember right, was it a 10-second duration or 12-second duration actually on it, it means it will keep ticking over and it keeps the buff on the Book of Demonicus up. So that really is pretty important there, and it's a nice little unique effect which you have on them. But now that we've covered the gear, what we'll do as always is show off some gameplay so I can showcase the build and how the actual rotation works. So it'll be a run through of Dimensions Collide. I figured I'd go for that one because we've got lots of bosses, and Wolverine is a hero that's all about taking down bosses. He's certainly not great at trash, but what he does, as they say, he's the best at it, and it's taking down bosses. So enjoy this gameplay. If there's any questions, as always, feel free to ask, and I'll see you all again soon.
fate. I am pain. Weak-minded plebe! I need time to heal. By the cauldron of the cosmos, you will suffer. This world rots from within.